going live right now.
Yeah, I'm going to watch this on Twitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are the live.
Hello.
Welcome. I am
Indeed.
messing around with the stream a little bit, as you can see. But it's been a mad one this week, so setup's a little delayed, but we'll be absolutely fine. So, I'm Adam Steele, and this is Liam Wright. And
Hello.
This is the Hop Pole Position podcast. It's a weekly podcast, goes live 8 p.m. every Thursday, and we talk about music tech and guitars and all sorts of good stuff like that. This is the Hop Pole Position. Lovely. How are you this week?
I'm good. You know, when I search for Hot Pole on YouTube now, it comes up as Hot Pole Behringer as the first suggestion.
Really?
Yes.
That's incredible.
I'm good. I am currently at a house party for a friend's birthday because, it's ridiculously busy. I finished work about an hour ago. I come here to see the friend, but I didn't want to miss the podcast, so I am here in the spare bedroom, hidden away. Feel like some sort of rock star. It's like, I've got to leave. I've got to go do a podcast.
Yeah. Just gonna up and leave just to do a podcast. Yeah, no big deal.
Very interesting political debates going on, given the night that it is in the UK.
Yes, of course.
So it's been came and had very highbrow conversations, which I wasn't expecting.
Did you then swiftly run away to do a podcast?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been really interesting.
Right. It seems a little odd for people to be having strong political discussions right now, considering that most of us who are going to vote have now been out and done so.
Oh, no, not as strong as in just us just debating how shit the world is, really.
Well,
there's a guy
we can all agree on.
There's a guy downstairs that actually does his own kind of predictions, and he's got spreadsheets and stuff as to who's going to win. Apparently, the Conservatives are going to win by 35 seats, according to his predictions and his spreadsheets. So it's quite an interesting fellow, to say the least. But yeah, other than that, good. Just ridiculously busy. He's come back from London. Lots of cool stuff going on. Lots of fun plans for the channel that we've been working on behind the scenes. Yes. So yeah, it's all good. How are you, sir?
I am quite good. I'm fairly exhausted. Ivy's been ill again.
Yes, yes, unfortunately so.
She had hand, foot, and mouth disease. It's a virus. It's just, she's almost fine today. She's been on antibiotics every day. And no, it's fine. It just means that we've had to change things around a little. So, strangely, I've actually had a very, very productive week, almost despite that. Released a video yesterday about Reaper 6, which went absolutely bananas in terms of...
indeed.
And I mean, like, truly bananas, which is unusual for us. It's usually a slow burn that grows and grows and grows. But this one, we're about to hit something like 6,000 views in 2 days.
Which was what you were thinking, though. I mean, that shows you got the thing on the pulse. And also, you are the Reaper guy now, so
I guess
so. Accept that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm certainly not upset with being successful. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's just, I expected it to do well. I didn't expect it to do that well that quickly. But then that's going to be one of those videos where I suppose a few weeks down the line, that's going to tail off. And
yeah, it's not going to be one that's necessarily as, as you say, a slow burner. But I mean, then again, Reaper 6 is going to be around for a bit, so until Reaper 7 comes out, I suppose it'll be relevant.
Yeah, well, there's been a good couple of years in between versions, so yeah, maybe. Yeah. Also, the series that I've produced with Code Drumheads, that's now ready to go, and one part of that got released today, which was the interview with Mike Heaton from Code. So it's kind of the jumping off point for the series. It's the background information, if you will. So that the rest of the series is going to be the real educational stuff, like the sound of a kick drum with and without dampening, different snare heads, different tom heads, actual like dampening rings on a snare, all that kind of stuff. So they're going to go out once a week until they're all out there.
Cool. Good stuff.
And so they're now all edited, which means that my head can be slightly less full of things, because I've got so many projects on at the moment. It's genuinely terrifying.
Yes, indeed. I share your pain.
Yes. And yeah, so it's just been a really good week, but a really busy week. And yeah, so I didn't think much would happen in the music world this week because it's nearly Christmas. And as a result, I think next week's podcast is going to be mostly kind of a roundup of the year and getting into talking about what's been bad and good this year and wrapping it all up, because there's going to be very little news. But the week after's Boxing Day, so we're probably not going to do one that week. Cause, yeah, everybody's just going to want to be at home and not want to do much.
Yeah, well, let me know. I'm around.
Yeah, I'll be down south with my
yeah, might be a bit difficult, really.
Might be a good excuse to get away for an hour.
Let me know. Ash is working in the morning. She's at work at 9 a.m. on Boxing Day.
Woof.
Yeah. But luckily we'll be at my parents' house, which is like 2 minutes from where her work is. So hopefully I'll be able to ask my mum if she minds, because my mum will be up at 6 in the morning. So
yeah,
I'll say, Mum, can you take Ash to work? Because I don't want to get up. I'll hopefully, in an ideal world, I won't quite have been to bed yet. So
ideal world indeed. Yeah, and I'll be doing all the live sound and that kind of stuff for the venue where I work up until Christmas Eve, and then again from the 28th right the way through to New Year. So, bleh.
Fun stuff.
But money's money. You got to do what you got to do.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed you do.
So, yes, if you guys in the chat want to get questions in, we answer everybody's questions at the end of the stream. So do feel free to think of questions you want to ask us, but keep them, hold them in Notepad or somewhere if you can. And then at the appropriate point in the stream, we'll say it's time for viewers' questions and fire them all away. So
if you want to ask them now, we'll still go back and read them. So
yeah, we will, but just for it makes it nice and easy if everybody just goes.
Yeah, it's easier to read. Yeah.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's look at the news.
The news. I have a tiny version of the stream on right now on my phone.
Tiny.
So I may not be able to read too much.
Oh, of course, because I've not sent you the links.
I wouldn't be able to with I've got my iPad Pro, so I am huge. I can see my face really big, but I'm terrified if I minimize this, what happens? Actually, do you know what would happen if I minimize Discord? Will it stay on?
I don't know.
Let's find out.
Let's find out.
Am I still here?
No. I can still hear you, but video's gone.
Okay.
It's nice that it doesn't cut the call, though.
Yeah, okay, so I need to have my face huge. Can I, minimize it or anything? Is there not a way to split screen on iPads?
Yes, swipe it in from the right.
Swipe it. Oh! Now I've got half of you.
I can still see you.
Yeah, I can see half of your face. Our mistakes were made. It's fine. I can just see half of my face now. Let's just leave it at that. Okay.
Right, so news article number 1. I mean, the headline this week being the new Mac Pro is really good. They're really expensive, but apparently they are pretty powerful. You can have up to 1.5 terabytes, I think it is, of RAM.
Okay. That's a lot of RAM.
But you're paying $50,000 for the privilege or something crazy like that.
Jesus Christ.
But then, from what I've been looking at today, this is the modern super pro production machine of its time. 20 years ago, SGI? Is it SGI that made all the crazy workstations? I think it's SGI. Yeah, the big workstations that were like a big tower. Those are the stuff that they made Toy Story on and computers like that. Right. So, yeah, proper video workstations. They would be anywhere from 65 grand up to $250,000.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And so, I mean, these aren't quite that powerful, but comparatively speaking, I mean, yes.
Yeah, but I
the
mean,
new
how
Mac.
much are you paying for the name Apple on top of it? I mean, is there nowhere else you could buy a rig like that from?
Um, yeah, but that's the thing. At that level,
You're going
it
into enterprise level anyway, so you're looking at a similar
y-
cost because it's
yeah,
enterprise.
yeah, because you go to a big company to build it, someone like
Mhm,
HP or someone like that.
mhm,
You just go to a big name at that level. Because when you're
mhm.
spending that kind of money, you don't tend to build it yourself ever.
No, no.
I mean, unless you're absolutely insane. But hey, some of us are. But for what we do for audio production, you don't really need that. I was having this discussion yesterday. That's another thing. Just to be off topic for a minute, I out of the blue a few days ago had an email from a university student saying, "Hey, you remember that Raspberry Pi video that you did?" I was like, "Yes." I'm doing a uni project on that and power consumption and audio production, and so I ended up having a Skype call with him last night for an
Right.
hour and a half, which I recorded through OBS, and so that's going to come out probably next week as the conclusion to the Raspberry Pi series.
Okay.
Because it's a series that was supposed to be a big thing, but because of certain roadblocks and kind of hitches along the way, it's never got finished.
hmm
So it's actually quite a good explanation of why it never got finished.
Okay.
So yeah, that's going to be going out as a kind of a bonus video.
Cool.
But yes, so back to this week's topic. Yeah, so you can spend 20 to 50 grand on a Mac. If you want it on casters, if you want it on wheels, the wheels are $400.
Yeah. I mean, it's cheaper than a stand for the iMac.
Yeah, it's cheaper than putting it on a trolley. A good quality trolley. You know what I mean? And by the look of it, by this picture, these are not cheap casters anyway. These look like they're made out of machined billet aluminium. I mean, it's a single flat picture, so it's hard to say, but
Yeah, it's fucking Apple. I'm sorry, but it's just ridiculous.
it is ridiculous. But then, I mean, well, the choice of them to pick this is the ridiculous bit. My family have worked in manufacturing for years generally on the sales side, but you know they know how the factories work. And my dad used to work for a company that machined high-end furniture out of aluminium billet.
hmm
So would get an entire block and a CNC machine and actually drill it out.
hmm
And so that could get really expensive. And that's probably what this is. And I would imagine they would last a lifetime.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, if you know the wheels that won't break on a 20-odd grand machine, in comparison, I can almost see it.
Yeah, but you know for a fact that the screw holes in them will be proprietary, so you can't even put your own wheels on there.
Yeah. Just a piece of wood and some duct tape.
Yeah. I mean,
That'll
if
be
they
pretty
if
on
they
the
were
Mac
just
Pros.
bog standard kind of screw holes, and it's like we sell you $400 wheels, but you know we'll be okay with other people making some third party ones that will cost you like 20 quid. You know for a
Yeah.
fact they're going to make sure that's impossible. You'll need a special locking nut to put each one of them in.
Yeah. Well, as long as there's a hole somewhere, like I say, a piece of wood, duct tape.
Mm,
Stick it in the hole.
okay.
The wood in the Mac.
You're not making this any better, mate.
That's what she said.
Oh, God.
Oh, moving on.
I'm at a house party, it's fine.
Yeah. Me too. It's just me that's been invited, but I've got a large glass of wine, so it's all good. So, Merlot. Moving on. Origin Effects, who I've always been a fan of. This is just a little bit of news from the guitar world. They've reissued the Cali 76, which is a compressor that I had, the TX model, which is the one with the transformers. These things were huge. I mean, it's the size of a breeze block. And since they made the Cali 76 TX, they stopped making them in the big enclosures because they found that without the transformers, they could make it in a design that was sane, I think is the word I would use, that kind of fit on pedal boards. But this transformer-based version, apparently that's got the sound. With Real 1176s, apparently a lot of the sound is from those transformers. But they're celebrating 10,000 of their new compact Cali 76s by bringing back this absolutely insane monster. And if you're a guitarist or a bass player and you want a really nice compressor with great tone, these things are really, really nice. I sold my non-transformer model because I wasn't using it live and I ended up going back to software, but I had the non-transformer version, so it only kind of had half the mojo, essentially, when I was using it on things like vocals. So, yeah, these things, they're not particularly cheap.
No.
£550 for one of these, but that's less than half the price of a real Universal Audio 1176, the big rack units. And
we were going through those the other week, weren't we?
Yes. And yeah, so...
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't actually sound like a bad price for what you're getting, in all honesty. Like, a versatile piece of kit as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're very nice. I mean, as far as an effects pedal goes, if you ever wanted to do like a my board's bigger than yours competition, this pedal basically takes up a quarter of the silly big boards. It's huge, which, yeah, that's great.
When size matters with your board, like put this right in the middle of it.
Well, you know what you say. Small pedal, small tone. Big pedals, big tone.
So looking at it from that picture then, so the dials on it are rather large.
Yeah, the dials on it are bigger than a 50p. The big ones anyway. It's a big boy. It's a big pedal. It's bigger than my head.
I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, I had the non-transformer version, serial number 050. And yeah, I kind of regret selling it, but then, like I say, I wasn't using it.
Yeah.
And if I was going to use it now, then I would absolutely get the transformer model for that extra couple £100.
Very cool.
Right, so, yes, moving on. Just getting random emails from New Zealand. Anyway.
As you do.
Yes, there's a new software by Z-Plane called Decoder that they're touting as the ultimate transcription software. Apparently, you give it a song, and it maps out what the chords are, what the structure is, what the speed is, lets you change the key of it, and kind of isolate all the bits.
Okay.
Apparently, they work quite well.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to
be... I'm dubious.
Yeah, but it makes sense to me because it's not trying to do what that splitter thing was doing that we talked about a few weeks ago, which was actually...
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I've seen things like these before, and I have no doubt one day, maybe today's the day, someone will nail it. But in my experience of people who have tried to do this technology's not been there yet. So yeah. I'm interested.
Yeah, so it's going to be a special price of €29, so not that much. So I might get it just to make a video about it, just to try it.
I'd be very interested to see how well it does.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently it's drag and drop that you can drop a song in, and it'll just break it down and go, well, here's all your chords and everything. Maybe it just Googles them.
Yeah. Just looks it up. Basically, it's just what's it called? Shazam.
Yeah, this is how AI really works. It just does a Google. So, sorry, I'm eating wine gums whilst drinking wine. I think the universe is about to implode.
Oh, wow.
So, this is one that's relevant to our interests. A while back, we did a big series of iPad audio production videos. Excuse me. And one of the major gripes at the time that I was doing all these was that the only kind of plugins that were available for all these things like Cubasis and Audio were all the stock plugins. Since then, Waves have made a few plugins for Cubasis, and I think, I can't remember, PSP, one of the kind of old guard plugin manufacturers, made some plugins that worked in Audio. Now Fabfilter, who are one of the real daddies in terms of the respect in the industry, have made a load of their plugins available for iOS. And they use the what's the Interapp Audio
Okay.
No, not an Interap Audio. They now use audio units, which is the same type of stuff that Logic uses on a full-size Mac. Now, audio units is a system that iPads use as well.
Okay.
So it's basically just you install these things, so they come up on your desktop as a little icon anyway, but you don't open that. That just means it's installed within Cubasis or Oreo or whatever. You just open it up as a plugin, and off you go. And apparently that means there's much better cross-compatibility than there ever used to be.
Okay.
Which is great, because that means that apparently now I can do things like stack several plugins in a row, which was always a problem on iPads. Apparently now that problem's gone away.
Cool.
So I might do a follow-up video on that. But yeah,
I think that's good.
Yeah, Fabfilter make one of the best limiters in the industry, full stop.
Awesome.
Yeah, they make one of the best EQs in the industry, even, stuff like that. And they're all available now on iOS.
I think that's really cool, because, I mean, iPads are fairly powerful little machines, especially given that it's isolated to doing one job at a time as well. So you're getting all of that power into the app. So, I think this is a really cool thing. I mean, this little iPad Pro that I've got in front of me, like, it's a beast of a machine, really, in terms of what you need for production, for like base level recording out and about and stuff, and doing some basic mixes. I think it's very cool.
And yeah, now with these pro level plugins, this does start to make it the kind of system where if the plugins, I think it was the Waves plugins that you could get and the Fabfilter stuff all work on iPad. The next step, reasonably, is all the Slate stuff to work on iPad. Then other companies working on iPad, and then it becomes a very legitimate prospect. I mean, everybody knows that I love Reaper. I do. But the main reason that I use Reaper is as a vehicle to make audio production happen. I use it because out of the options on a desktop, it's the one that works for me. But what I really do to get the sound is I use a lot of external plugins.
Yeah.
And if those plugins are usable in any other system, then I'm not afraid of using that other system. Like if someone sat me at a Pro Tools machine but said, oh, well, these plugins that you use are all available, then I'd say, yeah, okay, let's go. And so on iPad, if I could, especially iPad Pros, they're pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And if these things are, if these plugins are recompiled for ARM processors, they should be really efficient anyway.
I mean, our iPad Pros are old as well, like the new ones, like fly. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, if anyone's looking at being serious at iPad production, then you're going to get a newer either iPad or iPad Pro, and the processors in them are very, very, very fast indeed. And that means that, this opens up some more possibilities. I mean, these plugins are £28 to £38 each on iPad, which for plugins on iPad is very expensive, but the PC versions and Mac versions are 10 times that for the same software. Which indicates the price model that, for different platform, different pricing. But yeah, if you're looking at doing some really nice production and you are confident that you can get the best out of these Fabfilter Pro plugins, you're off. Yeah. So yeah, that really makes for an interesting future.
Interesting.
In related, not news, but related point, Microsoft have recently released their new Surface Pro X, which has a new processor in called the SQ1 that's been made by Microsoft. It's an ARM processor.
Oh, okay. Didn't see that.
Yeah, so they've got an 8-core ARM processor in their new Surface, and I think we're starting to see the dawn of ARM-based actual computing, and not just necessarily mobile, quote-unquote.
Because the Surface is still a computer, isn't it?
Yes.
They've not changed anything. They've not released that with Android or anything.
No, it's got Windows for ARM, which now, because they've made the processor themselves, it has emulation for x86 inbuilt. So it can run quote unquote PC programs. A lot of them anyway. They're not apparently. It's not 100% compatible, but
so they have done like a Windows RT thing with it.
Kind of, but
Right.
because it's got an emulation layer,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the problem that it used to be. Because
Right.
it used to be that with the whole Windows RT thing, it only ran ARM programs, so basically it ran nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the universal apps, basically.
Yeah, which were few and far between for anything decent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all the, well, I think they said it was either 32-bit or 64-bit x86 emulation. I can't remember which.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me shows the future. That's going to be a few generations away from just being able to run anything.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, that Surface had something like they claimed a 14-hour battery life, and Linus Tech Tips did a review of it, which came out this week, which is why it was brought to my attention. Apparently, in practice, it actually had a 10-hour battery life.
Okay.
And could run pretty much anything. But if apps were natively compiled for ARM, the battery life would be even better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if music production is being now made specifically for ARM processing,
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the amount of producers, especially like electronic music and stuff, that will be producing on a laptop anyway, it makes complete sense to be pushing towards kind of iPads because they can corner that market, especially with how, I don't know, the public perception of iPads and Apple in general. Like, they're just cool. There's a huge piece of music production that they can take that piece of that pie. People that would want to quite happily mix on their iPad with their Beats headphones and make music all day long and share it on social media and promote it and stuff. It's very Instagrammable in terms of the look and feel. I think it's very of the moment. Makes a lot of sense.
Indeed.
I think it's a smart way to go.
Yeah. So that's the future. Another thing that's part of the future, talking about iPads, this isn't iPad specific, but CME are a company that make really nice, really thin and light keyboards that have got Bluetooth that you can travel with.
Okay.
And so now they've brought this thing out called, they call it the WHEELY Master, which I think is a very silly name because it does WHEELY. But what
wireless MIDI.
Yes, but Bluetooth wireless MIDI.
Okay.
So this little thing has got two traditional MIDI DIN ports on it. So you stick this in the back of a vintage synth or anything, and then you just hook that up to your iPad or whatever.
Okay.
And so Cubasis or anything that you run on an iPad can suddenly wirelessly trigger any keyboard.
Is that going to work well enough? I mean, I know, for instance, Microsoft don't use Bluetooth with the Xbox controllers because they don't feel that their response time and the number of interactions can be sent across efficiently enough. Obviously, PlayStation feel that you can, and Sony do that, but I don't know.
Well, that's it. If it's good enough for Sony, why isn't it good enough for anybody else? So I can see why.
Well,
Microsoft
just going to put it this way: there are no pro that I'm aware of. There are no esports that use PlayStations that I'm aware of as the main controller and operating system. Anything that's console based is all Microsoft. So at the elite level where that sort of stuff would matter, it's all on Xbox controllers.
Right.
So don't know. I don't know enough about it, but that's just the only little bit of sort of anecdotal knowledge that I'd have on it. So it would be interesting to see whether these can really perform at par of really complex sort of. I mean, they're quite small keyboards, are they? So you're not.
Well, these are, but you can use literally any keyboard.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's
just
the
dongle,
point of it, because it is literally just a dongle.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see whether you can be going full pace, both hands, with loads of effects going at the same time.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I suppose there aren't the effects though, are there? Because you're not going to be turning. It's just a MIDI.
Yeah, so it does say the MIDI can be all the controls depending on what kind of keyboard it is. It says they reduce latency by directly embedding the Bluetooth LE protocol in the firmware.
Okay.
So yeah, there's just no latency really there if it's going to go straight over. But they CME also have a proven track record because they have this technology already in their X Key Air keyboards, which I thought about getting one for a while, but then it turns out I wouldn't use it. But I think it's really interesting that they've made this, which means that now any one of their suggestions was a keytar. Yeah, there you go. So it's not just connecting one of these to an iPad or anything like that. You can also connect one of these to another of these. So you could connect something like a keytar to a big synth or a vintage synth. And so you could run around the stage and be triggering a synth and be free.
It's a really cool concept.
Yeah. It essentially turns whatever keyboard you have that has a MIDI port that you like.
Wireless.
Yeah. And so I think that's really, really powerful. Because if you've got a wireless keyboard, a controller keyboard, or if you've got an iPad and Bluetooth headphones, you can be walking around your studio, or your home or whatever, whilst writing. And I know some people like to walk around while they're doing stuff.
And someone can have an iPad next to you, walking next to you, recording it. You can both walk together down the street recording music.
Sweet, sweet walking.
Yes. There's a really cool video you can do. You can record anywhere now. Just put yourself in the stupidest places.
Yeah.
And doing stupid stuff.
Someone
so how much are they?
They are. Let's have a look.
$59.
So yeah, $59 full price. Apparently, if you get one now, they're $39. But
It's reasonable.
I thought it'd be a lot more than that for these, with them being quite a niche product. I do think that's quite reasonable for what that gives you. If you already have the keyboard synth and you already have the iPad and that kind of thing, wireless for $59, that's dirt cheap. And like I say, CME have quite a good track record. They do already make these products that are bigger. Like they've got this wide-eye hub, and but this new product is just much thinner, much smaller, much easier. So yeah, I just like the idea of it.
Yeah, I do. It's cool.
I'll have to see how it pans out and how many people use it. Talking of vintage synths, next up, good old FL Studio, everyone's favourite Bwomp Bwomp synth DAW, now has CV support. CV support, for anyone who's not aware, vintage synths that are like pre-MIDI don't use MIDI. They use two things called CV and gate. CV stands for constant voltage. So literally you'll send out 1 volt or 2 volts or 3 volts, and that will determine what note that it's playing on the keyboard, and the gate decides whether it's actually playing a note or not. Or CV can be used for anything. It can be used for filters to make that womp womp kind of noise. It can be used for all sorts of stuff on vintage synths. And so now FL Studio can natively, if you've got an interface that's got what's called DC coupled outputs, you can just run a jack cable into the CV input on your synth and trigger it remotely from FL Studio.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, sorry, not just vintage synths, modular synths in general. So because there's a big resurgence recently in the whole Euro rack unit thing, which is being spearheaded by Behringer. We had to mention them somewhere.
When they're doing these new models, they're all coming out with MIDI though, right?
Yeah, they all have MIDI in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but stuff like CV can do some very different things.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much the traditional way of working CV. And so yeah, you can do some really clever stuff with it. Like you can loop it back on itself and stuff like that as well, which MIDI doesn't have anything physical. CV and gate are literal physical connections, so you can. That's why modular vintage synths have these patch cables going everywhere.
Yeah.
It's usually either gates or CVs going from one part to another part. And so that's how you make all these really weird sounds that you would never be able to get otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a free update in 20.6.
Nice.
So, yeah, very nice. Now, from Bwompy Bwomp to vintage guitar. So, Jeff Buckley. We know and love Jeff Buckley. He was arguably one of the best guitar singer-songwriters of the past 50 years. Died young. And played an fairly iconic Olympic white 1983 Telecaster. Which just had a certain sound to it, and it's belonged in a collection up until recently. And Miles Kennedy from Alter Bridge seems to be friends with the guy who owns it, Matthew Lucas from Matt's Guitar Shop in Paris. And so Miles Kennedy is a huge Jeff Buckley fan. And he had the privilege this week of playing Hallelujah by the Jeff Buckley version with Jeff Buckley's guitar on stage. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's some life goal stuff right there.
I'll have to watch that later.
Yeah.
Do you like a bit of Alter Bridge? Not gonna lie.
I mean, when Miles Kennedy really goes for those high notes, it's not my thing, but I certainly respect him for what he does. He is very, very good indeed. I've never been a big fan of that kind of slightly irritated Tomcat sound. Which is why I'm also not a fan of bands like Pearl Jam, particularly, because that whole Eddie Vedder wow, wow, wow kind of thing.
Sacrilege.
I know.
You go listen to your Megadeth and sit in the corner.
To be fair, he's not much better.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I think it wasn't either of those two that killed it for me. It was all the post-grunge artists who just wanted to sound like that. Scott Stapp killed it for me.
Okay.
Ironically, he was the previous singer to sing with Mark Tremonti, wasn't he? So, yeah, Creed killed that vocal style for me.
Oh, yeah, that's the reason why I'm a fan of Alter Bridge, because it's Creed without that.
Yeah. Well, instead of it's
and all the, songs. Anyway, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, moving on from to Ozzy Osbourne.
Adam does music of the last 30 years in Cartman style.
And many crazy train. Yes. Anyway, apparently Randy Rhoads' iconic gear got stolen from the Musonia School of Music, and Ozzy is offering a $25,000 reward for its return.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which means that it's almost more useful for someone to hand the stuff in and get the reward than it is to try and pawn it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Thanksgiving, apparently, the music school was founded by Randy Rhoads' mother 70 years ago. It's her. So the reason that Randy's stuff was there is because her son, and he's not been with us for a long time. And so, yeah, that's awful. But yeah, if it gets found, Ozzy will give someone a very large reward.
Oh, well, that's kind of sad, but yeah, cool.
Yeah. I do really wish that we had a lighter note to end the the news on there, but there's with us getting this close to Christmas, there isn't too much silly stuff. So, as it stands...
Well, if anyone knows anything about this, then give the information to Ozzy.
Yes, turn yourself in.
And we'll have a cut, please. Just 500 quid or so.
And yes, hand it in quietly, otherwise he may bite the head off a bat.
He doesn't do any of that anymore.
No.
None of that.
He gets a vegan bat alternative. Yeah. So, right, so let's quickly talk about Patreon, because Patreon is a thing that helps us to make this show and other shows. And my word, it's been a crazy week for the studio. We've been, like I said earlier, videos are usually slow burners for us. So the thing with Patreon is it helps us to keep the lights on and keep going and do more of this kind of stuff. And even though we've had this massive viral video this week, that may not happen again for a long time. And so, yeah, you guys helping us helps us to help you by bringing you the news and reviewing gear and telling you all about Reaper and all the other stuff that we do. And so we try and give back to you. Any videos that are ready before release date all get put up there for early release. We say a week before, but all the videos from the Code Drumhead series are up there now, so that's up to 4 or even 5 weeks ahead. Because there's no reason for me not to share them with you, because they are ready. If I was to release them all in one go, then the YouTube algorithm would have a fit. But that doesn't mean that I can't show you guys as kind of an extra benefit, shall we say. Other piece of news, I don't think I've told you this yet, Liam, but I hatched a plan this week that I've opened a second YouTube channel for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I know this is a harebrained scheme. Hear me out. But what I'm thinking,
you know, that strategy meeting we had earlier today would have said anything else from you, Adam. Maybe this would have been a good time. That would have been a good time to mention that.
Now that I think about it, I've not actually done anything with it yet. So if it turns out it's stupid,
okay.
But the idea is anything like early release videos or anything that's kind of a bit of bonus content, rather than damaging the grand old algorithm. If I throw stuff on a second channel, then we can bring content to everybody and tell everybody about it, and not have loads and loads of videos on the channel that are unlisted with like not many views because they are for patrons or whoever.
But that's the whole benefit of what the patrons get, is access to those videos. So if you put them on another channel, then they're not going to have that benefit.
No, because in Patreon you link to the video specifically.
Oh, so you create another channel to put them unlisted on that one?
Yes.
So that patrons will get the videos from that channel.
Yeah, and
and
also if I do any extra, if I've got some crazy thoughts that I want to put out as a video or anything, I can put them out on a second channel and not just tank the main channel.
Yeah, okay, I get that from the Patreon point of view. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, so that's an idea that I had.
Yeah, it's something that people, the Patreon people, won't necessarily notice as much anyway, because the videos will just be embedded in there. So
yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Just because it's something that I suppose I only thought about earlier today, that it occurred to me that, like, for example, one of the videos from this Code Drumhead series, I put that up for pre-release. The patrons watched it, loved it. One of them said, "Oh, by the way, I think there's a bit of a mistake somewhere." Where it was literally in a graphic, there was a misspelling of a letter somewhere. And seeing as though it was a week early, I thought, yeah, great, thanks guys, that really helps. I'll change that and I'll re-render it before release. So the patrons helped me out and also got to see the content early. But that also means that I've now got an old version of the video sat on the channel that's got a number of patrons of views and is never going to be released to the public. So statistically, does that even bring us down if it's unlisted? I don't know.
No, it's not going to affect anything. You can always just remove it anyway, can't you?
Yeah, but then you end up with old Patreon posts where they don't link to a video anymore. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking.
I will speak to the wise old sage of YouTube in Dan and see what he says. Dan will tell us the answer to that question.
Cool.
He is the king of the metadata.
Absolument. Yes,
cool.
One of our friends is a YouTube man. Like, he lives and breathes it. It's very impressive.
It is indeed.
Yes,
but yeah, trying to offer a better service for patrons and people is definitely what we should be striving for.
Absolutely. Indeed. It's all for the people.
Sounds good.
Yes. So, questions. Anybody got any questions to throw in the chat, music production wise or otherwise? Do go for it. We have many concurrent viewers, so throw them questions in them many chats.
Just to be aware, my iPad is on 10%, so yeah.
Cool.
To ditch in a second.
You've got 9 whole % left. Yes, I think Marty earlier was saying one of our regular viewers, Martin, will the English build an Atlantic wall on the cliffs of Dover? What, like the American wall with Mexico?
Yeah, someone downstairs was saying that. So we'll campaign now that we're going to build a wall and get France to pay for it.
They probably would as well. They'd surrender after 5 minutes.
No. I think all you need to do is build a wall across the Channel Tunnel. I mean, it's quite a small wall you need to build. And I'm sure there's probably a gate on the tunnel anyway, so it's already there. It's fine.
It's going to get very dark very quickly. I mean, I'm not going to talk politics in terms of politics on this show, but I just will mention that it's interesting that the polls close in just over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, we're going to see how it goes. We're going to start seeing results come through.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to see how our country's going to change within a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. It won't do. The Tories will stay in.
So Spreadsheet Man says.
Yeah. That's what most of the polls are saying as well. Like, end up with just a slight majority government. Which is that's what it is.
Cool. Darren in chat says he's configuring Reaper with a UR44. That'll be the Steinberg UR44. Cool. Oh, me and Booth Junkie are his favourite guides so far. Cool. I saw my first Booth Junkie video earlier today. He seemed like a pretty cool guy.
I don't think I know Booth Junkie.
No, well, I didn't up until today, but I think it's one of those things where I probably should have known a while ago, because let's just search Booth Junkie on my phone.
Just got an SM58, any pointers?
Got an SM58, any pointers? Yeah, point it at the mouth. Didum. I did do a video recently saying I hate the SM58. Maybe watch that. I don't actually hate the SM58, but it's worth a conversation about what the microphone's for, what it does, its place in the modern world. Mm-hmm. It's quite a terrible live microphone these days. It's got its place in the studio, but even so, it's limited.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you got it secondhand, if you got it as a deal or something like that, great. Use every microphone you have. But yes, it depends what you want to record with it. If you want to record guitars with it, it's not that different, tonally speaking, from an SM57. So I'd take the grill off it and then use it like an SM57. Because they're not that different from each other, even though, people will cry out, oh, they're different. Apparently they're different. I don't believe that, but they're not that different, even if they are. What do I like for a live mic? Either a Sontronics Solo or an SE Electronics V7. For the price, they are unbeatable, they are clear, they have loads of gain before feedback, they sound crisp, and like I say, they won't squeal on stage, and they won't sound muffly. And those are my two biggest issues live, with singers especially, is either squealing feedback or muffly sounding vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the whole band kicks in. That was too quick. Our stream goes out on a low latency mode. So we probably see your questions within about 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
About voiceover.
Voiceover, you say?
SM7?
SM7, Rode a pod mic that I'm using right now. I mean, if you like the sound of the voice that I'm using, if I lean in a little bit, these are £100. These are actually a little bit cheaper at retail than an SM58, and it sounds like this with no processing. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a review video about this in a couple of weeks. I literally got this just before stream last week, so I've not had time to produce a full review video on it. But I've used it on a guitar cab as well, and it sounded great.
Oh, he missed what Mike, she said. He didn't get to
okay. So that was a Sontronics Solo or an SE Electronics V7. Those are the two that I have that I use. I use them in live applications all the time. I've got an SEV7. That's my personal microphone. I don't let anyone else use that. Which is not for any picky reason. It's because if you share microphones with singers, you tend to get ill quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And up until recently, I was doing 2 or 3 shows a week. So, yeah, I didn't want to get sick. And the Sontronic Solo is the one that I used before that. And the first time I got a solo, I was actually the backing singer in a wedding band, and the lead singer liked the sound so much, he begged me to buy it from me. And so I ended up getting another solo because I'm doing another review video for Sontronics. And so they sent me 2 of their other mics and sent a solo along with it, and I wasn't complaining. So, yes.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I've done a video specifically about the solo on the channel. I don't think I've done a specific video about the V7. I can't remember doing one anyway. Hello to Dylan in the chat. If you got any questions, now is a good time to fire away just before we end our conversation. Because we're now 50-something minutes into what's usually an hour-long podcast, so yeah.
I'm on 7. I'm on 7.
6% to go.
Yep. Still here.
I'm still alive.
No Daves tonight. No, Dylan's have taken over Dave's, it seems.
Yeah.
For Christmas.
Dylan's and Darren's are taking over. They're going to be the...
the new Daves.
The rebellion.
Don't try and make Dylan a thing.
The anti-David rebellion. Which ironically stands ADR. Very appropriate for sound recorders. Yeah, I'm imagining the Council of Davids are all out voting. But then I don't think they're all British. We have an International Council of Daves for anyone who is not aware.
International Council of Davids.
Yes.
I would think that the Council of Davids do sit at Westminster at some point in the year for their AGM, though.
Yes.
Canada.
If we call it the International David Council, that's IDC for short. I think that's quite amusing. Canada. Yes, we have a viewer from Canada. That's great. We had 2 in the chat from Greece last week.
Ah.
Yeah, 2 completely independently of each other. Which was weird. One started writing in Greek writing, and I was like, sorry, dude, I do not understand.
Someone replied to it.
Yes, and that was
That's
what
amazing.
was really confusing. And we also had two separate people, I kid you not, 2 separate people from Alaska last week.
Wow. Well, I apologise for not making it last week. I was intending to make it on a train, but the train was delayed. Surprise, surprise. So I was stood at Euston Station while the podcast was on, and I got onto the train about 9:15 and found a seat, so it wasn't really viable to jump on. But even when I'm away from home, I do always try. Almost put a Rode NT2A. Which one's that?
NT2A is decent.
Is that the fat one?
The NT2A is a little bit fat. They're very decent mics. NT1s I wouldn't really bother with. They're built to a very low budget. But the NT2A is not bad, really.
What's the one that I have? Is NT3? The one that's in the office at the moment?
Is an NT3, yes.
Yeah.
So it's more of a small diaphragm condenser, so it's not the best for voiceover, but
no, it's all right. It's quite airy.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're considering buying something like an NT2A, what is your budget? Guys in the chat, give me an honest number in pounds or dollars. Give me a number. What is your budget for a mic? And I'll give you my recommendations in that budget bracket. I just want a flat mic. No, you don't, because that does not mean what you think it means. A flat mic is a measurement mic. Measurement mics sound terrible because when you think you want flat, you really don't.
Unless it's the slate mic that you have.
Even that's not flat.
Okay.
The slate mics, which I love, are not even close to flat. but they are typical of their respective, like the Slate ML1, the large diaphragm condenser, sounds like a fairly neutral large diaphragm condenser. So if you can afford $500,
that's Canadian dollars.
All right, okay, but if you can stretch to that, now is an amazing time. This week and this week only, you can get a Slate Digital ML1 microphone, which is arguably, in my experience, the best vocal mic you can get at almost any budget, for $499.
Really?
They're on sale this week.
Jesus.
I seriously considered getting a second one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd consider getting one for, just, sitting around the house for that price.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, fucking hell. Yeah.
I'm still considering it because SX
get
Pro in
London
London
get an affiliate link and then just do videos all week promoting that.
Yeah,
because that's incredible. Like the stuff that I've seen in the studio coming out from that mic, and the way that you've had singers just be like, "Oh, I want the Mariah Carey sound." It's like, "All right, okay, 1 second, record into that thing. Okay, there you go. There's Mariah Carey sound," and it's like, "Holy shit, that is."
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We had a singer in a couple of weeks ago who was a really good female vocalist. I picked the right mic model for her as we were testing, doing sound check, and then we all just sat there with our mouths open, and we're just like, "That's the sound." And yeah, it's. Do I have a video about the ML1? Yes, I do. There's a video. I don't think I've done a proper review of it, and I now have had it long enough that I need to really do that. And in the new year, that's probably something I'm going to do. I did a full video about the ML2, which is the small diaphragm condenser, which is a lot cheaper. If you're an instrument man, get yourself an ML2. They're $149 US, so probably more like 180 Canadian. And they can sound like an SM50, an SM57 or a 421 or a condenser or a ribbon. And they really do. And they sound really, 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 really good when they're not breaking on you, which apparently now all the quality control's been fixed. So I got 2 new ML2s last week, which I'm very, very happy about, because I bought 2 a while back and I sent them back and got my money back because the QC at the time wasn't great. But yeah, if you want a vocal mic, the ML1 is probably the guys at Slate sent out an email this week that was Sting. Sting's got a budget like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, he can get whatever he wants.
Yeah, and he has a vintage 251, the Telefunken 251, which until I'd heard of the Slate ML1 was my goal in life, was to own one of those, because they sound like every record you can imagine that's got that thick top airy sound. And Sting this week did a shootout with his own 251 and a Slate ML1 on the 251 model, and they preferred the Slate one.
Holy shit.
Well, they said it was so similar that you couldn't tell the difference, and the convenience of not having to have valves warm up for an hour and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. It meant that they could literally just rock up at the studio and go.
And having seen it in the studio, I believe it.
Yeah.
Because we did that. It was the first thing when I was in there with me, you, and Ash, weren't we? And I was like, okay, play me something. And I close my eyes and then tell me the difference. And I was like, okay, use, I think it was like a SM58, and then use the whole different series of different mics. And I was like, holy shit, yeah, this sounds completely different. Yeah, it really weird, does sound like, and it doesn't just sound like weird modulation. It really sounds like a different source.
Yeah, because it's not just an EQ or something like that to make it sound like a different mic. It's a whole modeling system, and it's absolutely incredible. How do I feel about the CAD E100s? I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. They're cheap. And I don't mean inexpensive. I mean, they'll probably break. And I've used CAD mics before, and they've not necessarily had the best sound. Yes, one of the guys in the chats just checked out the Slate mic. And yeah, There is a lot of advertising and marketing hype around them, because of course there is. How's the noise floor? It's non-existent. I think it's at something like minus 110 or 120 dB. Any noise floor that you get if you buy an ML1 will be down to your interface. And since I bought the ML1, I bought a VMS1 preamp, which was originally you could only get them as a set, which was the microphone and the preamp, which came in at $1,000. Then they sold the microphone on its own for $800. The preamp is really, 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 really clean with just no noise floor. And so I bought one and I use an RME converter with it because I can. Because my priority has always been invest in one really good channel, one really good signal path, and then have good enough for the rest. And then when your money allows, then do that. Marty asks, how many times have I used the Arturia so far? Because I have an Arturia Audio Fuse 8 Pre in the studio, and I've now used it a lot. I've now used it on full drum kit. I've used it on guitar amps. I've used it on vocals. It's flawless. The noise floor is not there. Is the noise floor on the UR44 okay, you think? Okay is the operative word. It's not amazing. It's okay. If you're recording stuff and sending it off to like a Hollywood studio, they might be like, "Oh, dude, there's a noise floor in this." But
you sound like you're speaking from experience there, Adam.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, once or twice.
No comment.
Yeah, but it's good enough for production, to be honest with you. Although, if you do look at upgrading an interface at any point, I highly recommend looking at Audion, either the ID22 or 44, depending on how many preamps you need. Because the noise floor on them is ridiculous. And, I mean, you say you want to do voiceover work. The sound of my voice right now, I mean, there's no gate on this, there's no compressor on this, there's no processing on this. And it's one of these Rode pod mics and an Audient ID4. And the noise floor isn't there. The gain's cranked pretty high, and it sounds, I mean, I could do a little bit of light EQ work and a bit of light compression on this if I was going to send it out for radio. Maybe put a pop filter in front of the mic. It's got an inbuilt pop filter, but, you know, belt and braces, all that kind of thing. And, yeah, you can do radio-ready stuff if you've got a quiet enough room that doesn't have things like... Right now, there's a boiler in this cupboard behind me that's keeping the house warm, and if you're not hearing that, then that's a testament to the microphone. And yeah, that's it. I mean, these things are $100 for this pod mic. That's ridiculous for the sound of it, and I don't think a product like that's really existed before that sounds like this and is weighty and solid and inexpensive. So yeah, definitely doing a positive review on this, because now that I've used it, it fits the description.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Dylan says I have a Focus right now. Is that all right? Again, that is all right. It's absolutely fine.
We worked with Focusrites for years in the studio.
We did. I still use an Octo Pre Mark II Dynamic quite often. That's now been relegated to third in line because, well, fourth in line technically. Because my main channel is, like I said, usually the Slate or whatever other mic into a VMS1 into RME converters. That's my golden channel, as it is. Beyond that, the Arturia Audio Fuse is now going to be the top 8. Then I've got an Audient ASP800, which is all their preamps in a rack, which is the second 8. Then the Focusrite's now the third 8. Because it's good, but the others have come out and been better.
I mean, you're not using the BBCs at all, then?
At the moment, I'm not, unless I choose to. If I'm doing a project where they fit, I run through them, and then I have to run them into one of the preamp banks because of the conversion. It needs to get to digital somehow. So currently, I'm not doing that. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Audient out and put that with the BBC preamps that we have, so that there's a permanent path in.
Yeah, It'd be a shame not to. They do sound, in the right environment, they sound great.
Yes. Yeah, but up until recently, the problem's been convenience. But now I've got enough clean preamps that now becomes an option to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Audient is going to take double duty and become the vintage channel's front end, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't obviously want them on everything. Like we had to do at the very beginning. We're using the low line ones, weren't we?
Yeah. But that's it. Since now we do like gear reviews and all that kind of stuff, I've now got enough equipment to leave stuff like that plugged in permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that I can now just in the middle of a session just choose, which is great.
I'm gonna have to drop off because I'm gonna get disconnected any second.
Cool. UA Apollo. I say this in every week. Don't get UA stuff because you'll end up in the UA ecosystem and you'll lose lots and lots and lots of money or processing power. But that's my personal opinion. And last question. If an SM7 and a cloud lifter is a good combo, why not an SM58 and a cloud lifter? Because the 58's more sensitive and doesn't need it, but doesn't have the same sound quality. An SM7 and a 58 are not the same. So I'll have to talk about that in length at a different time.
A minute ago, you said that you thought they were the same.
No, a 57 and a 58.
Oh, wait, sorry.
An SM7 be different.
Oh, God, no. Oh, yeah, hell. Yeah, completely different thing.
Yeah. This is an SM7B without the pop filter. And it weighs about as much as a large dog and has a humbucking coil in which a 58 and 57 don't have. It's very different. And yeah, bet the ML2 and the stereo powered sound nice. Yes, they do. Which interface has the best DSP? Again, I don't know. I refuse to use it. I refuse to use onboard DSP. It is against my way of working. It's against my ethos.
It's against my religion, goddammit.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, but I do everything native because of portability and efficiency and not being trapped in an ecosystem or having to live with permanent processing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that rounds that set of questions up. So thank you, everybody, for listening to us talk about everything from silly news to important stuff like Mac wheels. We'll be back.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have more questions, save them for next week.
Next week, where we'll be here for the end of 2019 roundup with probably the top 10 list of top 10s. Mm-hmm. And if any other news comes out, then we will, of course, talk about it, and we'll be here, and we'll be awesome.
Indeed.
And so will you. So,
Indeed.
We'll see you then.
Maybe have a think about your favourite videos of the years, guys, and maybe we'll watch back some of your picks from our channel. From
videos, our channel, yes.
Yeah, favourite videos from our channel for the year, and we'll maybe have a look and laugh at ourselves. Especially podcasts where we've done stupid shit, and you want us to laugh at us. So yeah, if you've got any favourites, think of them, put them in chat next week, and we'll pop them up, and we'll have a look through.
I've got to make more scenes in OBS. Cheers.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Adios.